Instead, they said, I'm unhappy and I want out. And that is not the way she ever led her life. So I think she finds it difficult to understand. But once again, there's nothing she can do about it. So she just lets it glide over her.
It all went down in complete silence. No press release, no official announcement, and no carefully crafted palace statement explaining what just happened behind the closed doors of Clarence House. In the middle of the night at Clarence House, an 88-year-old princess pulled a move so defiant, so calculated, it was designed to shatter the fragile peace King Charles spent decades building. This was Princess Alexandra, the Queen Mother's favourite niece, the keeper of her deepest secrets, finally setting in motion a plan that had been hiding in the shadows for over 20 years. Picture it. A velvet box sealed with the initials QM untouched for decades. Inside were jewels that haven't seen the light of day since the Queen Mother died, back in 2002. And Princess Alexandra, one of the last connections to that old era of royal dignity, placing that box into the hands of Catherine, the Princess of Wales. But this is where the story gets explosive. Queen Camilla was completely cut out of the loop. Not consulted, not informed, not even acknowledged. The reigning Queen Consort of the United Kingdom ignored, as if she wasn't even there. So why would Princess Alexandra do something so bold, so defiant, and so incredibly destructive? And more importantly, what was inside that velvet box that was worth risking a full-blown royal civil war stick with me? Because what I'm about to reveal will change everything you think you know about the royal family's perfect public image. We're talking secret prophecies, hidden wills and promises made on a deathbed that are only now coming to light. This isn't just about some expensive jewels. We're talking about legacy loyalty and a battle for the very soul of the British monarchy. Are you ready for this? Because the story goes deeper than anyone imagined. It's the Queen Mother's secret plan. To really understand why this moment is so important, we have to go back in time, way back to the final years of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother's life. Most of us remember her as this sweet grandmotherly figure, always smiling, always so gracious, the nation's beloved matriarch, who lived to be 101. But behind that gentle exterior was a woman who understood power like no one else. She survived the abdication crisis after her own brother-in-law abandoned the throne just for love. She stood right beside King George VI during World War II while London was being bombed. She watched her own daughter become queen and navigate decades of scandal and change. And through it all she learned one absolutely crucial lesson. The monarchy only survives if you choose the right people to carry its legacy forward. In her final years, according to palace insiders speaking off the record, the Queen Mother grew more and more worried about the future. She saw how Diana's death fractured the entire family. She watched as Charles's relationship with Camilla went from a national scandal to grudging acceptance, and then she made a decision that would send ripples through the decades. According to sources with knowledge of the royal vault, the Queen Mother secretly amended her will. This wasn't the official will that was made public, but a private codicil, a separate set of instructions for her most personal things. These were not the crown jewels, and they weren't state property. These were her jewels, the pieces she had personally picked out, worn and truly treasured. They were symbols of her very identity as a queen consort who embodied dignity during Britain's darkest hours. And in that secret document, her intentions were made crystal clear. These specific jewels were to be passed to a future queen who showed grace, not ambition, dignity, not a desperation to be relevant. She never once wrote Camilla's name. She didn't need to. That exclusion was pointed deliberate and absolutely devastating. But this is where the story gets even more interesting. The Queen Mother didn't just leave a set of instructions. She actually created a prophecy. A palace insider speaking on the condition of total anonymity revealed she wrote about a queen of silent strength who would one day restore the monarchy's moral compass. She described this woman in such specific detail that when Catherine joined the family years later, Princess Alexandra knew immediately. She was the one the Queen Mother had predicted. You heard that right. The Queen Mother might have predicted Catherine's arrival before Prince William had even proposed to her. Does that sound impossible, or is it just the uncanny intuition of a woman who spent a century observing royal dynamics and knowing what truly makes a queen? Princess Alexandra, the guardian of secrets. Now let's talk about the woman tasked with executing this prophecy, Princess Alexandra herself. If you're not that familiar with her, trust me, that's exactly how she prefers it. Princess Alexandra, the Honourable Lady Ogilvy, is now 88 years old. She's the late Queen's cousin, the daughter of Prince George, Duke of Kent, and Princess Marina of Greece and Denmark. But more importantly, she was the Queen Mother's favourite niece and her closest confidant. While other royals were chasing the spotlight, Alexandra lived by the old-school royal code discretion duty and an unwavering loyalty to the crown. She has carried out thousands of royal duties in her lifetime, never once looking for headlines, never causing a scandal, just quietly serving. And it was Alexandra, the Queen Mother, trusted with her most sacred secret. Sources who know her say Alexandra has carried this incredible burden for more than 2 decades, just waiting and watching. She was looking for the one sign that would tell her it was time to fulfill her aunt's dying wish. And that sign for her was Catherine. Not the Catherine from tabloid headlines, but the one who endured years of weighty Katie mockery with quiet dignity. The Catherine who suffered intense media scrutiny and never once hit back. The Catherine who married into the world's most famous family and somehow managed to keep her sense of self. In Catherine, Alexandra saw exactly what the Queen Mother had described: a woman whose real strength came from her grace, not from grandstanding. And so, on a night that will now go down in royal history, Princess Alexandra finally made her move. The secret meeting that would change everything. Let me walk you through what has been reported about that night at Clarence House. It was late after 10 p.m. and most of the palace staff had already gone home. Later, the official logbooks would show absolutely no record of a meeting, no appointments, no visitors logged. But Alexandra showed up unannounced, carrying the box that had been locked in her safe for over 20 years. Catherine was there all alone. No aides, no security team in the room, not even William, just her. Some insiders say the meeting was arranged through secret back channels, using a coded message passed between trusted go-betweens. Others believe Alexandra simply showed up confident that Catherine would understand the gravity of a surprise visit from a senior royal at such an unusual hour. What happened next would change the course of royal history. Alexandra slid a velvet box onto the table between them. This wasn't just any box, it was a work of art. You saw it in the deep burgundy velvet, the age-tarnished brass hinges, and the 2 letters embossed in faded gold, QM. "These belong to you," Alexandra reportedly said. It wasn't a question, it was a declaration. According to those who later heard her side of the story, Catherine was utterly speechless. She knew instantly what this meant, the sheer weight of it, the shocking implications. "I can't." Catherine supposedly replied, "These should go to—" "They go where she intended them to go," Alexandra interrupted, her voice filled with 88 years of unshakable conviction. "Not where protocol says they should go, where she wanted." And with that, Alexandra opened the box. What lay inside was more than just a collection of jewels. Inside that velvet box was history itself. The main piece was immediately recognizable to anyone who studied royal history: the Queen Mother's guardian brooch. This was not just any old piece of jewellery. This was the exact brooch the Queen Mother wore to Queen Elizabeth II's coronation in 1953. It was the piece she wore for her most significant public appearances. In royal symbolism, this brooch was everything. It represented her role as the spiritual guardian of the monarchy itself, and it had been missing from public view since her death. Royal experts assumed it had been absorbed into the crown's collection or maybe locked away in the royal vault. They were all wrong. Alexandra had been guarding it this whole time. But that wasn't all. Sources later confirmed the box also contained a strand of pearls the Queen Mother wore at her final public engagement. There was a pair of diamond earrings gifted by King George VI, a sapphire ring that once belonged to Queen Mary, and most shockingly, a folded piece of parchment sealed in wax. And that piece of parchment is what took this from a generous gift to a world-shaking royal revelation. This was the letter that changed everything written in the Queen Mother's own elegant script on paper, now yellowed with age. It was a message that reportedly left Catherine in tears. To the future queen who wears grace, not pride. These jewels represent not wealth, but worth, not power, but principle. They have been worn by women who understood service to the crown means surrendering to something greater than ambition. If you are reading this, the letter continued, it means you have been chosen. Not by me, though I hoped and prayed for someone like you, but by your own character, by your willingness to endure hardship without bitterness, to serve without seeking glory, to love without losing yourself. Wear these not as ornaments, but as reminders. The monarchy's strength never comes from those who demand respect, but from those who earn it through quiet dignity. Guard the crown's conscience. That is the truest role of a queen. It was signed simply Elizabeth R. Elizabeth Regina, the Queen Mother's official signature. Catherine reportedly read it 3 times over, her hands shaking. Alexandra watched her in silence, letting the gravity of the moment fully sink in. She knew, Catherine finally whispered. How did she know? She always knew, Alexandra replied softly. She understood that the crown would eventually need someone who could restore everything that had been lost. Dignity, moral authority, the people's trust. And there it was, finally spoken aloud. The implication was just hanging in the air like smoke. The Queen Mother believed Camilla would never possess these qualities, so she created a secret plan to ensure the monarchy's moral legacy bypassed her completely. When Camilla found out, it was pure fury behind palace walls. News of the exchange did not stay secret for long. In the insular world of the royal households, gossip travels much faster than any official memo. Within 48 hours, someone, a staff member or maybe a courtier, informed Queen Camilla what happened at Clarence House, and according to several palace sources, she absolutely went ballistic. Staff who were there for the aftermath described a level of rage they had never witnessed from her before. Camilla spent decades building a reputation for being unflappable, for taking the hits, for keeping her composure even when attacked by the press. But this broke her. This wasn't just some media speculation. This was the royal family itself, or rather its revered matriarch, speaking directly from beyond the grave. A message declaring that Camilla was unworthy of carrying the moral legacy of the crown. One source described the scene. She locked herself in her private study for several hours. You could hear her voice through the door, not words, just the raw sound of someone who'd been wounded to their very core. When she finally came out, her eyes were red. Her face was a stone mask, and she refused to speak to anyone, not even the king. Camilla's closest aides desperately tried to downplay the incident to minimize the significance. "They're just jewels," one of them reportedly told her. "Personal items with some sentimental value, that is all." But Camilla understood exactly what they wouldn't dare say aloud. This was never about jewelry. This was about judgment. The Queen Mother, a woman beloved by the British people and revered by the royal family as its moral compass, had looked at Camilla and found her unworthy. She looked to the future and had chosen Catherine instead, and there wasn't a single thing Camilla could do about it. This put King Charles III in an impossible position, trapped in a nightmare of competing loyalties. On one side was his wife, the woman he had loved for decades, fought to be with, and finally married against overwhelming public opposition. The woman who stood by him when he was the least popular royal in Britain, now humiliated by his own grandmother's posthumous rejection. On the other side were his grandmother's final wishes. The Queen Mother's intentions were crystal clear with his daughter-in-law Catherine, who'd done nothing wrong but be chosen by history, now caught in the middle of it all, and his own mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who surely knew about this arrangement and yet had said absolutely nothing. Palace insiders claim that when Charles learned the full story, he was utterly devastated. Not angry, just devastated. He spent his entire life trying to honour his family's legacy while choosing his own path, modernising the monarchy while respecting its traditions and protecting Camilla while still serving the crown. And now his own grandmother had undermined all of that with a single gesture from the grave. One senior courtier speaking anonymously later described a private conversation with the king. The king said, "She's still running things from the grave. When will it ever end? When can we finally run this monarchy without ghosts calling the shots?" But King Charles knew the harsh political truth. He knew he couldn't take them back. It would look like he was ignoring his own grandmother's wishes just to spare his wife's feelings. The public relations fallout would be catastrophic. The public absolutely adored the Queen Mother. Their affection for Catherine was growing every day. But Camilla, even after years of PR work, was still seen as the other woman who destroyed the fairy tale marriage of Charles and Diana. If King Charles tried to take those jewels back, nobody would see it as him standing up for his wife. Instead, he'd look like he was disrespecting his grandmother's memory and insulting Catherine's character. So he made the only choice a king could make. He did absolutely nothing. This wasn't a show of strength, it was pure strategic paralysis. In the monarchy, sometimes saying nothing is the smartest move, but Prince William had a very different response. While his father was frozen by indecision, Prince William sprang into action. He has always been fiercely protective of Catherine. He had watched the media tear her apart for years before their wedding. He saw them paint her as a villain during their short breakup. He saw firsthand how she handled the insane pressure of marrying into the royal family with such elegance and resilience, and there was no way he would let anyone, not even his stepmother Camilla, make Kate feel bad about getting what she deserved. Palace insiders say that William arranged a private meeting with his father King Charles. The talk was said to be blunt but still respectful. William apparently laid out a few key arguments. First off, those jewels were never meant for Camilla. They were personal items set aside for the one person the Queen Mother felt truly shared her values. And that person is Catherine. To deny it now is to literally rewrite history. Second Catherine never asked for any of this. She didn't plot or scheme. Alexandra approached her because she was the fulfillment of a prophecy made long before she was ever part of the family. If anything, this whole situation just proves what a person of character Catherine is. And third, if we try to take this back, we'll look like we're ashamed of our own grandmother's final wishes. It would be like saying the Queen Mother made a mistake. Is that really the message we want to send to the world? And fourth, the final blow. Some things were never yours to give away, father, which means they are not yours to take back. That last line, sources say, left King Charles utterly speechless. William wasn't questioning his authority as the monarch. He was just speaking a plain truth that Charles already knew deep down, but just couldn't face. This decision was made long before Charles ever became king, and now it was completely out of his hands to change it. William's move was both calculated and absolutely brilliant. He framed it as honouring the Queen Mother's legacy, not picking Catherine over Camilla. This gave his father an out, a way to accept reality without feeling like he betrayed his own wife. But make no mistake about it, William had made his choice. He sided with Catherine publicly and decisively, sending a powerful signal about where the future of the monarchy truly lies. Then came the public debut of the jewels. For weeks Catherine kept them hidden. She knew how explosive this was and was being very careful about her next move. But then the right moment arrived. It was at a small charity event for children's well-being. This wasn't some grand state event or a televised ceremony, and there she was wearing the Queen Mother's guardian brooch. For a moment the world just stopped. An amateur photographer snapped the picture. That image hit social media, and within hours royal experts had identified the brooch and knew exactly what it meant. The headlines practically wrote themselves, "Catherine debuts the Queen Mother's personal jewels. The brooch that skipped Camilla. Catherine chosen over the Queen. A return to royal grace. Catherine honours the Queen Mother." And through it all the palace said nothing, which just fuelled the fire. Catherine herself never mentioned the brooch. She wore it like any other piece of jewellery, not like the bombshell statement it truly was. But everyone knew exactly what she was doing. Catherine was accepting the honour not with arrogance or a big show, but with a quiet dignity, acknowledging she had the Queen Mother's blessing. The public response was absolutely massive. Polls in Britain showed 71% of people approved of Catherine getting the jewels. Only 12% believed Camilla should have received them, while a staggering 68% said this proved Catherine was the true heir to the Queen Mother's legacy. Social media exploded with side-by-side photos of Catherine in the brooch and the Queen Mother at Elizabeth II's coronation. One commentator summed it up perfectly. They wrote, "With one simple gesture, Catherine reminded everyone what the monarchy should be about. It's not about power or status, but about character and duty. The Queen Mother saw that in her, and now so do we." This victory for Catherine cast a long shadow over Camilla. In the weeks and months after the story broke, people noticed a real change in Queen Camilla's public behaviour. She kept up with her official duties, of course. She didn't make a big scene or release any statements. She just faded. Palace staff noticed she started spending much more time alone. She began pulling out of major high-profile events, blaming minor health issues. When she did appear, she seemed quieter, far less confident. Friends close to the Queen speaking off the record describe a woman who was deeply wounded, but desperate to keep her dignity. She reportedly feels that history itself has judged her and found her lacking. And not the public's judgment, but the judgment of the royal family by the very women who came before her. There's no appeal from that court. The verdict is final. This whole jewel scandal became a symbol for Camilla's entire royal life. Always near the heart of power, but never truly accepted. Always in the room, but never really belonging. One particularly painful moment is said to have happened at a private family get-together. Catherine was wearing another piece from the Queen Mother's collection, just a simple string of pearls. For a split second, Camilla's eyes locked onto them. Then she quickly looked away. Not a single word was spoken, but everyone in that room felt the incredible weight of that one look. So what does all this mean for the future of the monarchy? Let's pull back for a second and analyse what this drama really says about the royals and their future. The first lesson is that the past always has a grip on the present. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, passed away in 2002, more than 20 years ago, and yet her decisions, her opinions and her predictions are still controlling the royal family's every move. The monarchy is not just tied to today's traditions. It's truly haunted by the expectations of those who came before, and second character always matters more than your position. Yes, Camilla holds the official title of Queen Consort, but that moral authority, that spiritual legitimacy, and the public's genuine love, all of those went to Catherine, and no amount of palace positioning can ever change it. Third, the monarchy is basically two separate institutions. You have the formal constitutional monarchy, the one filled with state dinners and official duties. And then you have the symbolic, moral monarchy, the one that lives inside people's hearts. And while Camilla may occupy the first, it is Catherine who completely dominates the second. Fourth Princess Alexandra's role exposes a hidden power structure. Senior royals, even those far from the line of succession, can shape the monarchy's future through their moral weight and their link to history. Alexandra commanded more real power with that velvet box than many working royals managed to gain in decades of official duties. Fifth, this is not simply about Camilla versus Catherine. It's about what the monarchy itself represents. The Queen Mother believed royalty should be rooted in moral leadership, that royals must embody the best virtues of their nation, not just attend ceremonies. By anointing Catherine, she was desperately trying to ensure that her vision survived. But that raises other questions. Our story is far from over, because while we know about the jewels that were handed over, palace insiders are asking a much larger question. What other secrets did the Queen Mother leave behind? Remember those sealed boxes in the royal vault marked only with her initials? QM, the ones nobody has dared to touch without direct permission from the king. Rumours are now swirling that those boxes hide much more than personal items. Royal historians believe they could contain more letters detailing the Queen Mother's plan for the monarchy's future, or private diaries with her candid thoughts on family members, maybe even specific orders on how traditions should be changed, and possibly even hints about who she thought should or shouldn't inherit the crown's sacred legacy. Princess Alexandra almost certainly knows what's in those boxes. She has hinted about it in private, but for now she is staying silent. At least for now. The question is, when is the next bombshell going to drop? What other prophecies did the Queen Mother leave behind? And who else might be named or even excluded in her final secret wishes? A legacy is reborn. This entire story started with a very simple act. One older princess handing a velvet box of jewels to a younger one. But, as we've learned, nothing in the royal family is ever quite so simple. What looked like a kind gift was actually a decades-old prophecy being fulfilled. What seemed to be a family heirloom being passed down was actually a final judgment being delivered from beyond the grave. What appeared to be just a story about jewellery was in fact a story about the very soul of the British monarchy. Princess Alexandra took a huge personal risk by following the Queen Mother's instructions. She could have just kept those jewels locked away, avoided the drama, and let that secret die with her. But instead she chose to honour her aunt's trust. She fulfilled a promise made in dying breaths to ensure the Queen Mother's vision for the monarchy was finally realised. And Catherine accepted this burden with the same grace that defined her from the start. She never asked for this recognition. She did not campaign for it. She simply lived her life in a way that fulfilled a powerful prophecy she never even knew existed. And Camilla, well, she's now learning the hardest lesson that anyone inside the royal family must eventually face. A title can be granted by marriage, but true moral legitimacy can only ever be earned through character. And once it has been lost, it can never really be reclaimed. King Charles is trapped between the woman he has always loved and the legacy he was born into. There is no easy fix, no perfect answer. But here's what we know for certain. The Queen Mother is still shaping the future of the monarchy from beyond the grave. Her voice, her values, and her vision still echo through every room of every palace. They influence every single decision, every succession plan, and every hushed conversation about the future of the crown. And through the courage of Princess Alexandra and the grace of Catherine, that incredible vision has been born again. So I need to hear from you. Do you think Princess Alexandra was right to go around Camilla and give the jewels to Catherine, or should she have followed the official rules regardless of the Queen Mother's wishes? And the much bigger question is, should the dead be able to control the living, or should the wishes of past royals be honoured no matter how much time passes? Drop what you think in the comments and tell me, if you were King Charles, what would you even do? Would you attempt to reclaim the jewels to protect your wife's dignity, or would you simply let history run its course, even if it meant your wife would be forever known by this snub? Because this story involves more than royalty. It is about family. It is about loyalty, and it is about whether we should honour the wishes of those who came before us, even when it creates such pain in the present day. And those are the kinds of questions every family, whether it's royal or not, must someday answer. Until next time, just remember that sometimes the most powerful legacies are not the ones we inherit by our bloodline. They're the ones we earn with our character. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next chapter of this unfolding royal drama. Because if we've learned one thing, it's this: the Queen Mother's many secrets are a long way from being finished with us. The monarchy will never be the same, and this story, well, it is only just beginning.